Formaffinity,
where design takes form.
Hey guys, welcome to another Formaffinity video. If you're like me, you've made the switch from Maya to Blender, which means you've also made the switch from Arnold to Cycles and or Eevee. That is to say, unless you are exploring the other rendering options available. I wanted to see for myself what render engine I could really sink my teeth into. One that would facilitate a smooth transition from Arnold and allow for artistic expression within a friendly environment. But what else is out there? I had to find out. Alright, so diving right in, this list is in no way exhaustive, but these are just some of the options for you when you're looking for a render engine for Blender. And the first one comes from Chaos Group. This is, of course, Vray. I'm essentially going to hit the bigger named ones first. I actually used Vray for a while on a short film that I did, but that was paired with Maya, of course. It is a priced model. You've got a monthly 70 or an annual option. I have not used it with Blender, but I know this is a very powerful render engine. And you can see by the gallery some of the things that it can produce. Just absolutely fantastic results. Especially if you are doing architecture. See if they have nature also renders really well coming out of Vray. So of course there's going to be a lot of different reasons why you would pick a render engine. Maybe you're shooting for more of still images or animation, so all these will be a little bit different in what they can offer you. And the other thing is all these are supposed to integrate into Blender rather than standalone, so I won't be covering say KeyShot, for instance. Rather just engines that I believe integrate into Blender, into the UI. So next on the list is Octane, and I tried using, so you can see it here, I tried grabbing this and I had a bit of a problem getting it to actually work. It does say that it works on Windows 10, which is my OS, as well as Linux and Mac. And what's cool is that they do have a free tier. And I like the way that Octane looks. It has, let's see what the showcase is, there it is. It has a nice quality, kind of this sort of misty, organic look, a little bit more of a darker look to some of the renders that come out of there. We can see that if we go into architecture. Really cool how it does sort of this like glowy bloom, how it handles all the bloom and whatnot. You can see some samples of automotive. So that's pretty gorgeous. So nice stuff coming out of Octane, but I do know that some people struggle to get it to pair well with Blender, and so I don't know. It's been a little while since I tried it. You also need a pretty powerful GPU to get this, because I believe this is only GPU rendering. Okay, so next we've got BMaxwell. So if you're familiar with Maxwell from other 3D packages, I believe Maxwell worked nicely with 3D Studio Max. So there may be an option there, but it looks like it may be kind of old. Next we've got Mitsuba 2, a physically based renderer, and I believe that this is open source, so you can just grab that guy and try it if you like. I don't know that they have, let's see if they have anything in the documentation as far as samples go. It doesn't look like it. Paper and video perhaps? Here we go. So here are some samples, and a video, of course, of what it can do. I haven't downloaded this or really looked into it too much, but I know this has been mentioned as an option for Blender. Moving on to another big one, if you're using AMD Radeon, you've got ProRender. And so this looks pretty nice. This is a physically based rendering engine. And they, of course, have it for Blender. I think you can just download this. Yeah, so cancel that. So that's free, open source. I don't know what the exact license is, but there's an option for you. Next we've got Appleseed. So Appleseed is open source as well, physically based global illumination rendering engine. And if you look at, for instance, this video, you can see it being used in animation. So kind of nice there. If you're doing more animation type stuff, it looks like it has a record of being able to do that. Also the gallery has some nice stuff. The look, of course, isn't going to be as nice as Octane or Vray and the ProRender, it looks like. But there's some pretty nice stuff coming out of there. There's a subsurface. Is there any subsurface? At least some skin going on there. Here's some stills from that short animation. So it's not the absolute best look coming out of this render engine, but pretty nice. It may be an option for you as opposed to going to cycles. Next we've got this guy here, POVRay, which kind of reminds me of the stuff coming out of Bryce. I don't know if you remember Bryce, but especially this image. So a little bit grainy. I have not used this one personally, but that may be an option if you like that look. Here we've got Corona Render, which doesn't specifically say that it works with Blender. You see here 3D Studio Max, Cinema 4D. but I know I've heard people using it with Blender, so I don't know exactly how they're going about that. But I know this is also a popular render for architecture and ArcViz, and it's got some pretty nice examples, as you can see. So the way that it deals with light, pretty gorgeous. Pretty realistic. So that's a nice, very nice engine. As far as the looks go, I don't know how fast it is. We'll get to that momentarily, a little bit in the video, but this is an option as well, if you can get it to work with Blender. Okay, and next we've got actual Arnold for Blender. So similar to the BMaxwell, you've got someone working on an Arnold for Blender. So this is actually in progress. It's been developed over the course of 2 years, at least according to the GitHub. And when I checked on their Discord channel, as well as blenderartist.org, as you can see here, his sort of last update was very soon. That was in February, and the Discord was saying third quarter of this year they would have a release, but it looks like it's been kind of on the back burner for a while. I don't know how realistic it will be to come out in the future here, but something to possibly keep your eyes out on. Okay, and then finally we've got LuxCore Render, and this is the engine that I'm really looking at using. I've actually started transitioning one of my models, the textures, over to the materials that come with this engine. And so yeah, let's take a look at what it can do. So LuxCore is it's a physically based and unbiased rendering engine, which can run on both the CPU and or GPUs. It's free, open source. So similar to Blender, it's always going to be open source according to the literature on the website. Has a lot of cool options. But before we get into the features, let's just take a look at the gallery, show you some of what people are doing with this engine. So there's an example. It reminds me a little bit of Redshift, that engine. I really like the way that it deals with light, and as opposed to Cycles, where Cycles has a little bit more of an edgy look, LuxCore has a little bit more of an organic feel to it without being too overboard. And you can really see examples of that in the architectural section of the gallery. So it kind of just gives it more of a nice, subtly soft quality to the render, and it's not. Whereas, say, Octane, for instance, has sort of that look to it where it's familiar. It has a kind of that misty, dark renders that are coming out of it, at least in my experience. Lux Render has kind of an array of different stuff. So I'd say maybe this is sort of on par with Vray and Redshift. Beautiful depth of field going on there, and reflections. So some of the other features, if we go into read more for the advanced features, you've got what I really like are the materials and the textures. So you get a Disney principled shader right out the gate, but then it also comes with metal, glass, car paint, and it works well with HDRs, bumps, and normal maps. The lighting, you can use photometric data if you'd like with the IES diagrams, and then as for environment lighting, you can use an HDR, etc. Physical sun and sky. It also has light groups. So I think, I'm not positive, but I think this might be like the light linking from Maya. So, and this is something that I know that Cycles currently doesn't have. So that's very cool. You've got volumes. I've already messed around a little bit with their light emitting material, which is very cool. You can do instancing, a lot of different camera options, from 360 panoramas to orthographical rendering, good for architecture, etc. You've got motion blur, depth of field, and lens effects. You can even do these post-processing effects like bloom, glare, chromatic aberration, and vignetting. And then you have tone mapping. And of course it works on Windows, Linux, and Mac, so not all of these engines will work for everything, but this one does. And then of course again it's completely free. And if you go to Blender Guru's website, he does this basically this pretty in-depth comparison of Cycles versus the rest, as he states it. And he's got Lux Render there, as well as Maxwell, Mitsuba, Octane, and Vray. And you can see the pricing model for all those. Although Octane, I think this article is a little bit old, so all these stats may be a little bit different now. But so Octane, there is a free tier if you can get it to work. And then these times that he did may be different now at this point. And I know, like for instance, Lux Render, there's ways to speed up the render if you kind of really kind of study it. Not saying that he didn't do that, but I don't know the work that went into each of these times for these render engines, and that goes for all of them. But here's an example of how long these are taking, and you can see Lux Core is kind of there in the middle. It's rendering faster than Cycles. And the question would be whether he was using GPU or CPU for that. But you can see LuxCore does pretty well on a lot of this stuff. Way down from Cycles and Maxwell. So anyway, guys, that's my list. We had such renderers as the POV, Vray, ProRender, BMaxwell, Mitsuba, Octane, Appleseed, and the engine that I'm going to be exploring, which is LuxCore. So to close out the video, let's just go ahead and see what LuxCore looks like a little bit here within Blender. If I hop over to the rendering properties, you can see we've got once you install LuxCore as an add-on, let me see. You've got all this stuff. Documentation is very nice. Oh, I should mention as well, they have forums and a Discord that are super helpful. They also have the documentation with these sample scenes that you can download and mess around with. They also have a wiki with a user's manual, so you can learn directly from the website what's what within that render engine. Step back here, and then you also have tutorials. So there is support there for that. Okay, so back in here, I'm just going to switch over, since I already have it installed, to LuxCore. Okay, you can check your device, CPU or GPU. I'm going to stick with the CPU. Also the engine, you've got path or bi-directional. So let's just go in here and what do I want? Plane. Raise this. So real quick, let's just take a look here at, so I can delete all this and just add a Disney shader to both of these guys. All right, and render. So you can see right out the gate the quality that it's giving. It does have, you know, right from the beginning, it has a sky for your global setting. HDR and flat color and none are also available. But and then there's also what it just did was a denoiser, which there's the denoiser here, but then in the viewport renderer there's the denoiser there, and also your halt time. I'm going to set it a little bit higher so you guys can see. So anyways, yeah, I definitely want to look into this engine a bit more, and I'll probably do some more tutorials or videos on it. So with that said, do any of these rendering engines pique your curiosity? Are you planning on trying any, or will you be sticking with Cycles and Eevee? If there are any that I missed that you believe integrate well with Blender and offer pleasing results, please feel free to leave me a comment. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.